After hours above open water, the little aircraft had reached its absolute limit.
The tiny aircraft had completely run out of fuel.
7 lives now depended on one impossible landing. To understand this desperate gamble, we must go back.
April 1975. South Vietnam was collapsing.
Operation Frequent Wind had begun.
Panic spread throughout the city. One Vietnamese pilot faced an impossible decision. Major Bung knew staying behind could mean certain death for his family. His wife and children waited for a decision that would change everything.
The aircraft was built for 2 people, not 7.
Every gallon of fuel would matter during the journey ahead. The tiny aircraft became a flying lifeboat.
We'll stay together, no matter what happens.
There was no room left for luggage or supplies.
The escape had begun. Few people believed the overloaded aircraft could succeed.
Hold on, we're leaving now.
The aircraft struggled under the enormous weight.
For a terrifying moment, it seemed impossible. Against all odds, the aircraft left the ground.
Home disappeared behind them. Ahead lay only open sea and uncertainty. He had one objective: find the American fleet. The tiny aircraft looked insignificant against the endless sea.
Failure was not an option.
The long flight tested every member of the South Asian family.
Somewhere beyond the horizon, their fate awaited.
Hour after hour, the tiny aircraft continued across the endless ocean. He searched constantly for signs of the American evacuation fleet.
The exhausted family had no idea whether rescue even existed.
Fuel continued disappearing with every passing mile. The ocean offered no landmarks and no second chances.
Storms were gathering between the family and survival. The overloaded aircraft fought rough weather over open water.
Conditions inside the cabin became increasingly difficult. Then, for the first time, hope appeared.
Thank God. We're gonna make it.
But reaching the fleet was only the beginning. The carrier was completely overcrowded.
There was not a single obvious place to land.
The first attempt would decide whether hope survived or disappeared. Major Bung began his first approach toward the crowded carrier. The small aircraft immediately drew attention from the deck crews.
The message was unmistakable. The deck was closed.
His first request for landing had been denied. Major Bung prepared for another attempt. Fuel was becoming a critical problem. If he could not speak, he would write. His words carried the hopes of 7 lives.
The first message was ready.
The ocean wind intervened instantly. The message vanished before anyone could see it. But he refused to surrender. One final attempt remained. This time, the message needed weight. The note carried a father's final plea.
Major Bung aimed directly at the carrier's command center.
At last, the message reached the ship. A sailor raced toward the mysterious object that had fallen from the sky. Attached to the knife was a desperate message.
The note was rushed immediately to the command tower.
Inside the control tower, every decision carried enormous consequences.
The room suddenly became very quiet.
One sentence changed everything.
The decision was no longer about aircraft.
Removing those helicopters would destroy millions of dollars in military equipment.
The carrier was already operating beyond capacity.
If that aircraft crashes, sailors on deck could be killed.
A battle greater than military regulations was unfolding.
But what kind of man watches children drown when a runway exists?
The answer arrived in a single moment.
To hell with the court-martial!
Attention all hands. Clear the deck. Push the helicopters overboard. Give that man a runway.
All hands, cease operations! Repeat, cease all operations!
The order stunned everyone aboard the carrier.
Then the crew moved without hesitation.
Rank and protocol vanished. Humanity took command.
The first helicopter began moving toward the sea. The first sacrifice was made. A machine of war disappeared beneath the waves. Then another helicopter followed. Aircraft worth fortunes vanished into the ocean.
Every foot of steel became precious!
A runway slowly emerged from the chaos.
Above them, Major Bung continued waiting for an answer. Then something unexpected caught his attention. The impossible was happening before his eyes.
For the first time that day, hope returned.
They're making room for us.
The family finally saw a path to survival. Now everything depended on one final landing. There was no fuel left. Not a single drop remained.
Hold on. We're almost there.
Now only gravity and skill remained.
Thousands watched as the tiny aircraft descended. Now the aircraft was sliding uncontrollably. Every remaining foot of runway mattered.
Come on! Stop! Please stop!
Then, everything stopped.
The carrier exploded with joy as history unfolded before their eyes. The rescue was complete, but the story was only beginning. The father who risked everything finally stood on solid ground.
We're safe. We're finally safe.
One gesture expressed gratitude beyond words.
Respect passed silently between two extraordinary men.
The decision soon reached the highest levels of command.
Many wanted answers about $10 million in lost equipment. I'd push 10 more helicopters overboard if it saved those children. Compassion proved stronger than bureaucracy. The friendship forged that day lasted a lifetime. The rescued family built a new life in America.
The little aircraft became a symbol of courage and hope.
Its story continues inspiring generations around the world.
In war, weapons destroy lives. Compassion saves them, and compassion always matters most.